So can ChampVA be my only insurance? In other words, I don't need anything else if I've got ChampVA?
Correct. As long as part of that application process is a other health insurance certification, or if you had other health insurance and you dropped for some reason, you no longer have that other health insurance, ChampVA can be your singular healthcare benefits program.
Okay. And how does that affect Medicare while we're just talking this? I mean, in other words,
you have to have Medicare A and B to be eligible to maintain eligibility for ChampVA.
So then how does ChampVA work with other insurances? Am I going to see them bill my insurance company now first, or is it ChampVA's picking up everything if I've got a separate insurance?
Other health insurance will always be primary to ChampVA. The provider will bill those other health insurances. Once that claim is adjudicated through the other health insurance, it then comes electronically to ChampVA. ChampVA will consider it and adjudicate it to whatever the allowable amounts are, or whatever the beneficiary still might owe to that particular provider.
Okay, that makes sense. Tell me the differences between ChampVA and Medicare. I hit 65 this year, so I popped into Medicare, and I'm playing both sides. So what am I looking at for differences here?
Well, Medicare and ChampVA are very similar healthcare benefit programs, but Medicare, of course, will be your primary. So whatever care you're getting, you'll go to and receive that care. Claims will be adjudicated as Medicare rules apply, and then if there is still what we call a patient responsibility, you still owe something after Medicare, then that claim will come to ChampVA and be considered via our allowable amounts, our patient based off the patient responsibilities, based off deductibles being met or catastrophe caps being met, and the claim would be adjudicated for whatever is allowed on that claim.
I see. So you mentioned ChampVA being secondary and paying second, basically. Are there other instances involved where they would be the primary payer if we had other insurance or other pieces?
Yeah, there are three instances. The first instance would be Indian healthcare. Second would be women of domestic violence. And third would be if a beneficiary had Medicaid. If those three instances, we would become primary.
The fun stuff. How do I file a ChampVA claim? Is this a long, arduous process? Is it difficult, or am I just online and I'm done in seconds?
Well, generally, the beneficiary shouldn't have to file a claim. There are instances where the beneficiary might need to file a claim, but generally, the beneficiary will go see their provider. The provider will file the claim for them. 99% of the time, it's done electronically. And then the claims are adjudicated accordingly. Now, there are a few instances where a beneficiary may have to file a claim. Mentioned earlier, talking about retail pharmacy, where there could be an opportunity where they still have a copay. They haven't met their cost share, their deductible, or their out-of-pocket expense. They could have to make a copay to get that medicine. They could then file a claim. They would have to file a manual paper claim with us to look for reimbursement for any of those types of copays. Also, when a beneficiary is first deemed eligible, depending on their eligibility date, could be backdated to a specific date. Could be 3 months, 6 months, 3 years. They have 180 days where they could file for reimbursement for claims that they may have had out-of-pocket expenses on, and have that window of eligibility. Their eligibility date goes back a few months, few years. They have that 180-day time frame to submit manually paper claims to our program. Now, there's a form you have to fill out, the VA claim form, and you have to have all of the documentation, the medical documentation, the billing forms, any medical notes that might be necessary, and then you have to mail that in to our ChampVA address that's listed on our website, and then the claims would be reviewed and considered for payment adjudication.
Gotcha. So, and to find these forms, I can go right to...
Yeah, all of our forms are on our website, va.gov/community care. You can click on the ChampVA link, and then there's a beneficiary link, and then it lists and has all the PDF type forms
And that'll
there
be in the
and
description
describes
below.
all of the information necessary to submit if a beneficiary needs to manually submit a claim. Describes all the information that would be necessary to submit along with that claim.
So they can download it right from there,
Yes.
print it and done.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I filed a claim and I'm waiting on my reimbursement. How does that come to you? Do I get a hard check in the mail, somebody paying me cash at a window? How's this going to happen?
Right now, as the beneficiary, if you're submitting a manual claim, the claim is submitted. It's adjudicated. If a payment is determined, it'll go through the process and Treasury will cut you a hard check. You will receive it in the mail. There's talk about making for providers were already mandating that they are on EFT. There's talk that in the future that we'll be looking at seeing how that will impact our beneficiaries. But right now, the beneficiary themselves would receive a hard check.
So one of the things we see online often, unfortunately, is why does it take so long for ChampVA?
Well, ChampVA, we here first and foremost for our veterans, for our beneficiaries, our providers. We continue to grow. We continue to grow our people. We continue to look at the processes that we have in place and the technology available to us to get eligibility determinations done faster, to get claims processed faster, to get any appeals that come through the system faster. And just working through those modernization efforts, we're making great strides. Eligibility determinations now are happening in about 6 weeks or so. Give or take. We're getting a huge majority of our electronics claims paid in less than 30 days. And the appeal process through the Appeals Modernization Act, they're working the appeals process light speeds compared to what we used to be experiencing when it came to the appeals process. So we know that that's a concern, and we focus on that almost every day to make sure we're doing our best to adjudicate eligibility determinations and claims and those appeals as timely as possible.
How quickly are some claims paid out?
We actually can see some of our electronic claims can be paid in 3 or 4 days. Just the timing of being submitted electronically because of our modernized claims processing system that we have now for those electronic claims. We call it a clean claim. A clean claim can adjudicate. If we get it on a Monday, it could be through our system and through Treasury and payment made in 4 days.
We talked about ChampVA and the difference between that and Medicare. What's the difference between ChampVA and Medicaid?
Okay, again, ChampVA is a VA or Veterans Administration health program. Medicaid is a state-run program. And so if a beneficiary applies for and is eligible for Medicaid, that's through the state. But as we mentioned a little bit earlier, if once that beneficiary is eligible for Medicaid, they would need to recertify their other healthcare insurance just so we have that information on file with us. But ChampVA then becomes primary payer. Medicaid would then be secondary payer.
ChampVA have fees, deductibles, that type of thing?
No enrollment fees, $50 individual deductible, $100 family deductible, and a maximum out of pocket, or what we call a catastrophe cap, of $3,000. Okay. And those are calendar year requirements, not fiscal year.
Does ChampVA cover disabled dependents for their life, or are there other changes to that?
ChampVA will cover a helpless child for their life or until they're determined to no longer be a helpless child.
Out of network. So as I know TRICARE and things like that, that's out of network. We only pay this amount, or we don't cover that. How does that work with ChampVA?
We don't have network providers. Our beneficiaries can go to any provider if they currently have a doc. As long as if that doc is willing to accept ChampVA, then that provider would bill. If for some reason that provider says, I'll see you, but I won't accept ChampVA, then they probably would require that beneficiary to pay for the care up front. And then that would be an instance where the beneficiary would need to manually file a claim for reimbursement consideration.
So that's something they should clear up right off the bat with their doctor or the provider they're seeing is, are you willing to accept what I have, which is
exactly.
ChampVA?
Even if it's a doc they've been seeing a while, they certainly, and now they are eligible for ChampVA. They certainly want to, ask that question because, you don't want any surprises when it comes to your health care that you've been seeing a provider. And now all of a sudden you have ChampVA and they're, say, well, I don't accept ChampVA, and this is what you'd have to do for you to stay, stay seeing me as your doctor. And that just potentially creates, headaches for a beneficiary as they're trying to get their care.
How do I contact you? How do I reach out to ChampVA?
Well, we have our call center. You can call our 1-800 number and reach out to the call center for any questions related to ChampVA. And then we have our website at va.gov/community care. Click on that ChampVA button. And there's a ton of information there to include. One of the biggest things that we try to get folks to is our ChampVA guide. There's a link to a PDF that's about 85, 90 pages, and it lists eligibility requirements. It lists what do I need to keep my ChampVA? What happens if I don't have this? Do I lose my ChampVA? It talks about what's covered, talks about those copays and deductibles, cost shares, maximum out-of-pocket expenses, talks about what's not covered, and talks about where to submit claims, how to submit those claims if you're submitting them manually. So that ChampVA guide on our ChampVA website is a wealth of knowledge for our veterans, providers, and beneficiaries.
So if anybody in the audience is looking for more information, please visit the video description below.
Hey folks, connecting with your benefits is our primary mission, and the SITREP is providing more options than ever.
Subscribe to our free email newsletter, subscribe to our audio podcast channel, or subscribe to our content on YouTube.
For details and links, check out the description below.